Chapter 3. Scene 1. Adjustment. By the time Naomi arrived at the Child Adjustment Center, the image of her mother in prison had fastened itself and torn into her, producing a savage deluge of tears that would not stop. To breathe, she had to gulp air between sobs. With each strained inhale, she mumbled Mommy repeatedly. Each time she went into a room, she searched for Mommy. Each time someone walked into the room, she expected Mommy. Every opening and closing door meant Mommy. For the first week, she wept and begged for her Mommy. As the tears added to each other, they washed her hope away. Eventually, they subsided. There were just so many tears that could be shed. For the next 2 weeks, Naomi lived in a house along with 9 other children between the ages of 1 and 8. All were girls. Each child had been taken from the mother for infractions of the 10 Commandments or another commandment of the moral code, to which were added and subtracted by the personal preferences of powerful groups, people and rulings of the Christian panels. Although a respected physician, Naomi's mother was not in the religious superstratosphere. So, she felt the full retribution for her crime. She needed to be an example, as did every violator who didn't have the right connections to be forgiven. Naomi's mind replayed the vision of her mother. She missed her mother, desperately asking herself if Mommy were still in that scary gray place. She also missed someone else, Felicia. Naomi had lived next door to Felicia since their birth, 1 week apart. They saw each other nearly every day. It was natural for them to play together, live pretend lives together, argue together, get in trouble together, and cry together. When they were together, it didn't matter if there was anyone else in the world. They especially clung to each other after they were told their fathers would not be coming home. They had died fighting side by side during the ceasefire in one of the series of wars for religious independence. Through their mutual loss, they formed a strong bond. Naomi and Felicia never had to form other friendships. They had made a world they could live in, good mothers and good friends. Naomi had already lost half of her world when her mother was taken, and now the other half was gone, Felicia. She would never see Felicia again. She could not understand why so much had been taken from her. As the void spread through her, she ached. When she ate, her stomach tightened. She was nauseous and food would often not stay down. Sleep was transient, bordering on insomnia. She was so tired, so confused. She would close her eyes. Thoughts would open them. Her mother must have been bad. Naomi couldn't figure out what it was. The rules in Naomi's world were few and clear. Don't hit, don't yell, don't break things, don't take things that aren't yours, don't be cruel, don't say mean things. Her mother had done none of those. So why had she been taken from her and put in that sad, gray, windowless place where people were connected to wires and watched awful pictures? She had been taken from her mother and her home. The peace and safety she found in her room were gone. She could not remember where her favorite dolls were, where her coloring pads, pencils, and a big box of 48 crayons were. The comfort they gave her was out of reach. Would she ever see them again? Transitioning away from her room in her mother's home to a stark, colorless room had been traumatic. She had been herded into a large room with several beds. If one person wasn't crying, another was, and that included herself. Felicia was her friend, and no one was like her. No one understood her. She didn't understand anyone else. The responses she expected didn't come, and her responses were rebuffed. To Naomi, neither she nor her mother had done anything wrong, but they were being punished. Her life was spinning away, and she didn't have anything on which to hold. Naomi isolated herself, as did most of the other children. They avoided each other, as it seemed that together they got in more trouble. Certain children were avoided because they readily cried for the slightest reason, and those in proximity were deemed to be the cause. It was safest to be alone. So that's what Naomi did. It wasn't personal, it was pragmatic. In the middle of the 3rd week, her diffidence was answered with punishment. At first a sharp warning, then a slap on the hand, then a sharp pull of the ear, then a slap on the back of the head, and then the belt. With all forms of punishment came a red-faced flurry of insults and recitation of current and past misbehaviors and weaknesses. And with them always came a quote from the Bible to justify the punishment. She cried a lot. All the girls cried a lot. As the hours and days of punishment piled on, Naomi thought less and less about her mother and Felicia. Her world became avoiding punishment. The little that Naomi had been laughing stopped. She stopped smiling. Her mind began to calculate where the line for punishment was, and she steered clear of it. That helped, but it wasn't foolproof. On an irregular basis, the children were taken to a soundproof room which had a large mirror. The caregiver, Serena, an old, haggard, tottering woman, lined up the children on a platform and told them to face the mirror. Behind the girls and above their heads were numbers 1 to 10. 10 minutes later, they walked out, and one child from the lineup was asked to stay behind. The child was escorted to a room, and Naomi never saw her again. The next day, a new child occupied the bed. Wednesday of the third week, Serena walked into the activity room, banged on the wall next to the door 3 times, her signal for the girls to turn their attention to her. Harshly, she bellowed, "Stop what you're doing." She paused. Scanning the room for tardiness, she yelled, "Now." Aggressively, with her head jutted forward, she roared, "Stand and listen carefully. You are to go to the washroom room. Wash your hands and face. Put on the best clothes you have. You are to be in the hall outside your room, lined up against the wall, standing still. There will be no talking, no touching. Just stand still and wait." Terrified, the children battled to wash their face and hands and scrambled into their best clothes, which were, at best, merely clean. They were still in the process, lining up against the wall, when Serena rounded the corner. "You, little one, what's your name?" Inaudibly, she said, "Jennifer." "Speak up." A little louder, she said, "Jennifer. I told you to speak up." Naomi stepped out of line and said, "Her name is Jennifer. I was asking her, not you. Who said you could get out of line?" "No one, ma'am." "Then get back." "Now, little Jennifer, why weren't you in line with the others?" Jennifer could only tremble. "Don't you dare cry, baby Jennifer." Serena walked to Jennifer, grabbed her arm, and pulled her toward the line and pushed her in next to Naomi. Bullied into silence, the girls followed Serena to a mirrored room. "Get on the platform, stand under a number, and face the mirror." They obeyed. Naomi was the first to smell urine. It was Jennifer. Serena scowled at Jennifer. "Stand still and stop crying. You're not a little baby." "My God, you wet yourself." "I guess you're a little baby." Jennifer stood, wet and tearfully shuddering. Naomi, standing next to Jennifer, surreptitiously touched the girl's hand. The girl looked at Naomi, who gave her a little smile. Jennifer returned a sad smile. "Stand still and keep your hands to yourself," Serena barked. For only a few minutes, they stood, eyes wide with fear. The door was opened, and the girls walked out, scared silent. Paula gently pulled Naomi from the line. Naomi worried. All I did was touch her hand. "Come with me, Naomi." Tentatively holding Paula's hand, Naomi was escorted to her room. Paula let go of Naomi's hand and put it on her shoulder. "Naomi, you're very lucky. You're going to meet a famous man and his wife. You might recognize him from the projection screen at church." Naomi didn't like Sundays, and especially the projection screen. Occasionally on it, a man was vociferously speaking with a dense expression that seemed hateful. She didn't understand what he was saying and why he was so angry, but it was clear that many people were doing something called sinning. Paula opened the door, and Naomi apprehensively walked into the room. A man and a woman were sitting on a couch. A chair faced the couch a short distance away. The man and woman on the couch smiled. Paula took Naomi to the chair. "Naomi, this is Mr. Ethan Colon and his wife, Mrs. Esther Colon. You know what to do, Naomi, don't you?" Naomi's eyes lowered. Her head bowed as she shrunk into herself. Mrs. Colon said, "There's no need for that. We'll take it from here." "Yes, Mrs. Colon." Paula left the room. Mrs. Colon said, "Naomi, Mr. Colon, and I know you've had a rough time, but we're going to make that better." The barrier which Naomi had erected against the pain came down. "Then, I'm going to see my mommy. We'll talk about that later. Right now, we want to get to know you better. But I will get to see her, right? Let's save that for later. Right now, we want to learn more about you." They questioned Naomi for the next 10 minutes. The Colons turned toward each other and nodded to Paula. "Naomi, please come with me." Paula took Naomi out of the room. Mr. Colon asked, "Do you think this is going to work? Just look at her. She's gorgeous and very polite. But I don't ask for very much. I want another daughter. You have 2 daughters already. Yes, but it is our obligation as Christians to open our hearts to the less fortunate, to save another soul from perdition. Okay, you have to live with your decision. She's not a pair of shoes you can return because they don't fit. I know. I want her. What about her mother? Her mother is serving 14 years in prison. In time, Naomi will forget her. Mr. Colin rose, went to the door, opened it, and told Paula to get Naomi ready to leave. Paula reached her hand toward Naomi. Come with me, Naomi. As Naomi walked past Mrs. Colin, she ran her hand across Naomi's head. We'll see you in a little while. As the Colins waited for the paperwork to be finished, Mrs. Colin had a question for her husband. Why was Naomi's mother put into prison? It's pretty simple. Lydia Mendonça was a physician specializing in prenatal care, counseling and treating women during pregnancy. Did she counsel someone to get an abortion? No. She always tried to talk them out of it, and she never performed one. Then what did she do wrong? Well, she's required to report anyone who talks to her about abortion or anything related to it. So, she wasn't reporting her patients? Actually, she was. Then why? One of Dr. Mendonça's friends felt something was wrong with her pregnancy. Dr. Mendonça checked and found out the fetus was not viable. The mother was about a month from the expected date of birth, but there were no signs of life. She asked Dr. Mendonça what she should do. Dr. Mendonça told her friend she had to make a decision. She was required to tell her to let the pregnancy take its course, not make the decision for her. Oh my. Then Dr. Mendonça made the fatal judgment. She failed to report the woman as required by law. So, her offense was failure to report a commandment or moral violation as instituted with the passage of the Fetal Protection Act. Ethan's head stretched toward Esther. His deepening frown made his message clear. Esther disconcertedly said, so, she knew what she needed to do, but she didn't do it. Ethan added, we have those rules for a reason. We must, more than anything, save God's children and obey his commandments. Of course, because they're the lifeblood of faith. And Ethan finished her thought before she could. The cornerstone of Christian civilization. She gave him the smile she knew he wanted. She didn't have to think about it. As a female, it had been etched into her behavior. Scene 2. Becoming a Colin. With her tiny suitcase in one tiny hand, Naomi held Paula's hand tightly with her other hand as they walked toward the administrator's office. Paula once again told Naomi, you are a very fortunate little girl. You're going to live in a big house and meet famous and important people. I know you will behave yourself and obey them. Lastly, Naomi, don't ask them about your mother. You don't want to upset them. Ethan and Esther were standing outside the office when Paula and Naomi approached. Ethan took the suitcase, and Esther gently stepped to Naomi. Remember what I told you, Naomi? Paula said softly. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Colin reached down and gently took her hand and gave her a slight pull. Naomi looked up worriedly, then looked back at Paula. To Paula, Naomi was a dear little one, and she was anxious about her feelings. Would she be moved again, and if so, where might she be next? The most consistent thing in Naomi's life had been her tiny suitcase, and it had been with her but a short time. Naomi had needed to know why her mother had to stay in the high-walled, sad, frightening, gray place. No one would talk about why her mother was in prison. A few people had said they would, but they had continually ignored her questions and had finally told her, some kindly, some harshly, to stop bothering them. Everything her mother had been to her was gone, and she didn't know why. Her mother's words of comfort had vanished. The tickles were gone. The kisses on her cheek and forehead were gone. The snuggles were gone. The bedtime touch were gone. The laughter had gone. So much had vanished in such a short time. Why? To her struggling mind, it made no sense. The world had turned into an awful, cruel, loveless place. She looked again at Paula, but she only saw her back walking away. She worried, but didn't cry. She had already done that, and it had made no difference. A long white car waited at the end of the sidewalk. 2-foot-high flags sporting the council's symbol were attached next to the headlights. A man stood at the rear door. He opened it, and Mr. Colin stepped in and sat in a seat facing the back seat. Mrs. Colon coaxed Naomi into the back seat. She sat next to Naomi and took her limp hand. The driver got behind the steering wheel and raised a black privacy window. In a careful voice, Mrs. Colon said, "Naomi, you're going to be very happy where you are going. You'll have a brother and 2 sisters who will play with you. Elijah and Delilah are a bit older, and Bethany is the same age as you. Your brother, Elijah, is in junior high, and your sister, Delilah, she's in 5th grade. Bethany will be with you in kindergarten. They'll help look after you. If you have questions that you don't want to ask me, you can ask them. We all love you and want you to be a happy Christian." Naomi could see that Mrs. Colon was waiting for a response, but she remained in her safest place, tucked away in silence. As the car drove on, Naomi's eyes shifted from place to place as if she expected or feared something else would appear and her world would change again. She wanted to see her mother's face and hear her voice. During the trauma of the past few weeks, they had already begun to fade. She let them slip away in Mrs. Colon's constant, kind voice. The limousine drove through downtown Lord's Bounty. Ethan lowered the car's windows. People stopped and waved. Smiling, he waved back. The windows went up when they reached the end of the city. Ethan dropped the smile. He looked at Naomi and tried to raise back the smile. It stopped halfway. Lord's Bounty, part of an evangelical Christian town, is set at the edge of an idyllic wooded area, the self-proclaimed wealthiest city in Ohio and Naomi's new home. It is a short drive from the former capital of Ohio, Columbus, the leveled and long, deserted historical center of steel production. The limousine drove to the outskirts of Lord's Bounty, followed a wide, winding, curb-less street, and stopped several feet from white iron gates with a large silver cross on the center. As the gate opened, the cross split down the middle and slid away. The car passed through. As the gate closed, the cross mended itself. Up a curved road, the limousine drove, stopping at 2 flights of steps, which led to a white 2-story mansion with 20-foot-tall Corinthian columns that supported the portico covering the extended entrance to the mansion. Prodded by Mrs. Colon, Naomi stepped from the limousine, took a few steps and froze, looking up at the imposing mansion. "This is your new home, Naomi." The ornate, colossal, white structure overwhelmed her. "Big," she mumbled. "Scary," she thought. Mr. Colon remained in the car. He waved through an open window as the limousine drove away. "It's okay, Naomi. You're safe here. Come on, let's explore." Mrs. Colon slid her hand into Naomi's and led her up the steps, opened a massive front door, and coaxed her into the entryway. The long white and gray marble entryway, with a rich dark wood table and mirror above, went past a large living room on the right. To the right was a library office with wide, closed double doors. To the left was the dining room, and to the right of the dining was the kitchen. All the rooms were large. The walls were white except for rich mahogany bookcases and panels in the library. Across from the dining room, a long curved staircase led to the 2nd floor. The staircase created a half arch, which marked the entry to a family room and then a recreation room. 6 upstairs bedrooms and an activity room completed the mansion. Religion was on every wall. "Let's see what's outside." Mrs. Colon showed her the back patio, which surrounded a massive tiled pool with a cabana at the far end. "You'll be able to swim in the pool, but only if there is someone to watch you. Do you know how to swim?" "I don't know." "We'll have someone teach you how to swim, but never come out here alone." Mrs. Colon combined a stern expression with a strict tone. "This is very important. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Colon clutched Naomi's hand. "Let's go back into the house. I can't wait to show you your bedroom. You'll love it." With a crisp tug against mild resistance, she coaxed Naomi up the stairs. Walking down the hall, she passed a door which had colorful Gothic letters that spelled out Bethany. Mrs. Colon pointed to the door. "This is your sister Bethany's room. She's very excited to have you here. You'll love her." They went down the hall to the next room. The door had a plaque with Naomi's name in rainbow-colored Gothic letters. Mrs. Colon pushed open the door, stepped to the side, flung her hands wide, and exclaimed, "Isn't this wonderful?" The sight puzzled Naomi. At home, her room had pictures of a tiger, a baby elephant and 4 horses, a pinto, a palomino, an Appaloosa, and a black stallion rearing up. Here, there were several pictures of Christ in different settings, always haloed, always serene. Her new room had a 3-foot-tall cross above her bed's headboard leaning out over the bed, and a 2-foot by 3-foot picture on one wall of an elaborate Star of Bethlehem scene, with the 3 wise men, paying homage to the Son of God. The ceiling of her old room had pictures with dozens of colorful galaxies and extraordinary pictures of unusual clusters of gaseous star formations, and pictures showing the endless variety of space. Around the room, just below the ceiling, there was a border with clouds, crosses, and praying hands. What she missed the most were the pictures she had drawn. On every wall, there was a creation of hers and Mama's. Many pieces were created with her mother and signed by both. There were finger-painted smears, people with round heads, hands with rectangular fingers. There were renditions of her fatherless family standing under a straight-branch tree and in front of a typical child's facade of a house, rectangular front and triangle top. Next to her bed was a drawing of Naomi and her best-ever friend, Felicia. It had been drawn together and created with exaggerated parts, especially the ears, which brought laughter. Naomi liked what she had made of her room, a space of her and her mother's creation. This new room wasn't friendly, posters and precise paint. She looked around at all the pretty things: a porcelain angel, a star pillow, a shiny silver cross above the bed, a picture of Christ praying, 2 Bibles, Old Testament and New Testament on the nightstand to the right of the bed. On the left nightstand was a children's picture book Bible. She felt neither joy nor disappointment. In her mind, it felt like a sea of gray. This room was more church than home. Naomi, this is your room. We can have it decorated any way you want. Thank you, ma'am. I'll leave you alone for a little while in your room. Look around. You can touch anything you want. The chest at the end of your bed contains dolls and stuffed animals. They're yours. If there's something special you want, just ask. I'll take you shopping tomorrow to get you new clothes and special Sunday clothes. Mrs. Colin walked to the door, turned back to Naomi, smiled, and said, "I'm glad you're here." Naomi stood in the middle of the room and slowly turned around, scanning. The only thing that appealed to her was the mysterious chest which drew her toward it. She lifted the lid and pushed until, with a click, the lid remained up. A doll with shiny, round blue eyes and chestnut hair stared at her from the corner. She excitedly reached to the far corner, grasped the doll's arm, carefully dragged her out. Pulling the doll to her chest, she kissed her forehead and tenderly said, "Felicia." Scene 3. Kindergarten. It was Wednesday of the first week of kindergarten, and Bethany couldn't wait for the day to end. Naomi would be waiting, and Bethany felt Naomi would be excited to see her as much as she would be excited to see Naomi. Knowing Bethany would be excited to meet Naomi, Mrs. Colin had the driver pick Bethany and drop her at home and return for Delilah and Elijah. To the consternation of the driver, Bethany was out of the car as it was just coming to a stop. She burst through the front door, forgetting to close it. Unable to calm her eagerness, she rushed past her mother, as if she was invisible. "Where's Naomi?" Bethany closed the door. It was too late. "Never mind. She's in her room." Bethany ran up the stairs. Naomi's door was open. Bethany didn't hesitate at the doorway. Naomi, sitting on the bed, raised her head. Bethany rushed over, sat next to her, and put her arm around her shoulder. Stunned, Naomi leaned away. Bethany backed off. "I'm Bethany. I'm your new sister. Your name's Naomi, right?" "Yes. We're going to be great friends." Bethany jabbered excitedly, and Naomi cautiously began to relax. She couldn't help feeling she had someone nice in her life because that's what she wanted to feel. Slowly, Naomi started to talk with short answers to Bethany's questions. Bethany talked to Naomi until they were summoned to dinner. As soon as they sat at the table, Naomi did expect the Colin family to pray. However, she didn't expect them to hold hands as they did. Naomi thought it was odd, but pleasant. Throughout the meal, they talked about the day and encouraged Naomi to share her feelings, but she didn't feel comfortable. She shied her eyes down and bit her lower lip gently. Soon the questions stopped. After dinner ended, Rita cleared the table. Naomi headed toward the stairs. Mrs. Colin put her hand on Naomi's shoulder. "Dear, We have Bible study after dinner. Didn't your parents have you study the Bible? No, but I know my mother read it. And once she read it to me. Elijah said, everyone has to study the Bible, or they will go to hell. Bethany struck back. Elijah, that's not true. They could still be good people. Mrs. Colin added, your sister is right. We must have pity for the non-Christians and try to bring them to the Lord, so they may enter heaven. Your mother is right. Christian spirit is for everyone, and we must give everyone the opportunity to accept the Lord, Mr. Colin added. Elijah countered with, but you and Mom said that if you're not a Christian, then you are not welcome in the Christian parts of the country. We make them live in the zone of the damned away from Christians. Mrs. Colin fiercely responded, the what? The zone of the damned. Everybody at school calls the place on the other side of the Freedom Wall that, or they call it Devil's Zone or the Dark Zone. Mr. Colin chuckled. Ethan, that's not funny. Sorry, dear, but it is pretty clever. Bethany frowned. But it's cruel. It's mean. Mrs. Colin said, that is true. It is cruel to say that, and we must leave the door open for them to join us. So, we give them jobs working in the fields outside the walls, and we provide them housing and even a clinic where they can get medical aid. Well, I'm never going to be friends with an atheist or anyone who is not a Christian. They are bad people, evil people. They are dirty, filthy people who live like rats. Some are even cannibals. Mrs. Colin said, Elijah, where do you hear this awful stuff? Everybody at school knows it. They are vermin. They are deformed from eating people. They have infected sores all over their bodies. Bethany glared at Elijah. You are a horrible person. They are not like that. How do you know? Have you ever been to the zone? No. Well, I know some people who have been there. Elijah, that's enough. You should be ashamed of yourself. They are people, and they need our help. Bethany added, we need to love them like we do everyone else. We need to make them Christians again. Well, I'm not going to. I hate them. Ethan, are you going to say anything? I was listening. If this is the way young people think, I need to know it so I can do something about it. Elijah, I agree with your mother. I don't want you to talk like that again. You need to show some compassion. Not to non-Christians. Well, you had better think about that again because it's wrong. In this house, you will never talk like that again. But, never again. Do you understand? Elijah sank back in his chair. And kill that scowl. It softened only a little. Suddenly, everyone was aware Naomi had heard the family squabble. Mrs. Colin turned to Naomi. She was frightened. I'm sorry you had to hear that. We are really not that kind of people. Things just got a little heated. Naomi lowered her head. Bethany took her hand. Naomi looked sadly at her. I miss my mother, Naomi whispered. What? Bethany asked. Nothing. With a change in tone, Mrs. Colin said, everyone get your Bible and your notebook and take your seat at the dinner table. Mr. Colin walked to a cupboard, removed a new Bible and notebook. Bethany leaned toward Naomi and whispered, I'm sorry. Elijah is angry a lot. I just try to ignore him. Mr. Colin handed Naomi a Bible and notebook. You are a blessed child. You have a brand new Bible. Treat it with respect. I will, Naomi responded quietly. For the next 2 hours, Mr. and Mrs. Colin read, discussed, and asked questions of the three. Naomi had few answers and, according to the Colin family, many misconceptions about Christianity, especially that people in the Bible and Christians were pacifists. It ended with Naomi confused about the beliefs of the Colins. After Bible study, Bethany escorted Naomi to Naomi's room where they sat next to each other on the bed. Bethany apologized for the family's heated discussion of the zone of the damned and explained that the protective freedom wall was the final permanent separation in case there were bad people among the good people on the other side. She was safe. Bethany was aware that when the freedom wall was built, the ostracized people were forced to the other unprotected side of it. But it will be several years before she would learn that over a myriad of decades, a lopsided symbiotic relationship had developed. The zone became a critical source of food. The residents were paid to tend the fields and work the farms. The people were essential even though they were not Christian or Christians in good standing. They were necessary, but would always be subservient. Noting Naomi's eyes becoming weary, Bethany said, You're probably really tired. You should get some sleep. Have a good sleep, and may God bless you. She left closing the most of the way. Naomi changed into her pajamas, which were on a chair close to the bed. She climbed into bed and tried to relax. The night light threw muted beams up the wall, diluting the Bethlehem scene and throwing a gray pall over the colors. Each time her eyes drifted open, the wise men seemed to peer evilly at the manger. The luminescence of the Bethlehem star took on a gray pallor. She worried that the cross, which pitched forward over the bed, would topple. For Naomi, sleep that night could barely be called sleep. Her mother had been taken from her. She missed her now even more. Her home had been peaceful and kind. This home felt hostile and on the edge of explosion. Worried about Naomi, Mrs. Colin checked on her a few hours after bedtime. When she opened the door, Naomi's eyes crept open. The light from the hall grew the shadow of the cross, making it appear to be stretching over her. She squeezed her eyes shut tightly. Her hands trembled. She wondered if each night would be like this. She fell asleep with the image of tall, gray, dead walls and steel mesh doors. And behind them, her mother crying, begging them not to take her child. Scene 4. Love in the mansion. Mommy, can I stay home with Bethany to help her? This is only her second day here. I'm sorry, dear, but you can't. You'll have to wait until after school. As Bethany was inclined to do, she accepted the answer. Okay, she responded with a half smile. When Bethany arrived home, she ran up the steps and burst through the front door, leaving it open the others. Delilah walked a few steps behind. Elijah trailed far behind with an annoyed expression as his companion. How was school? Asked Rita, the housekeeper and normal greeter. Fine, Devangelizing Bethany. Okay, Delilah responded blandly. She didn't ask Elijah. He would never answer. Bethany rushed to her mother. Is she in her room? Bethany excitedly asked. Delilah was annoyed at Bethany's excitement. With a broad grin, Mrs. Colin answered, yes. Bethany hurried up the stairs. Delilah and Elijah didn't move. Go upstairs and say hello to your new sister. Delilah sighed. Elijah complained. Why? I met her last night. It's only her second day. You would make her feel welcomed, comfortable. She's been through a lot. This is tough for her. Show some compassion. When they hesitated, she glared and ordered, just do it. Now, Bethany streaked into Naomi's room, startling her. Delilah followed more slowly, but less reluctant. With a scowl developing, Elijah walked past the stairs, past his mother, and continued to the back of the house. Elijah, get back here. He kept walking. Elijah, you get back here this instant, she shouted. He didn't stop. She sighed, turned, and followed him. That boy will be the death of me, was her tried and true parental response. Out the back door, he went. Out the back door, she went. Elijah, if you do not stop, you'll be off the soccer team. With rage spiking, he turned. You can't do that. All I have to do is call the coach. Worriedly, he proclaimed, you wouldn't. Try me. Look at my face. What does it tell you? You're serious, he mumbled. Hear me clearly. You're to go upstairs and say hello to Naomi. Do you understand? Consider her to be your new real sister. Sheepishly, he replied, yes, ma'am. He trudged toward the back door thinking, 2 idiot sisters and now a third. She's not even a real sister. Here only one day, and she's already causing trouble. More trouble than the other 2 worthless idiots. Why'd I have to put up with this? I don't have time to be dealing a bunch of prancing, stupid girls. They just get in the way. I hope they get run over by a bus. And do it quickly with a smile. And be friendly, not sour. Yes, ma'am, he said with a tinge of belligerence. I won't be sour. I'll be their sweet big brother. I'll be the sweetest big brother in the world. I'll paint my nails, wear a dress, and play dolls with them. Idiot mother. I'm talking to Dad about this. The church is right. Females are just inferior. The Bible even says they are. I think it's in Corinthians. They are to be subordinate to men. If they want to learn, they should ask their husbands. My favorite part. They are to remain silent. Elijah turned his head to show a mock smile. He felt superior to all girls and many boys. All paid deference to him. He didn't earn it. His father's position earned it for him, but he used it and enjoyed it. To him, Naomi was just another inferior girl, and in addition, she was 5 years younger. Don't push it. You're hanging by a thin thread. Okay, okay. She followed him to the stairs, walking several steps behind him. He huffed quietly, turned right at the top, and walked slowly down the hall into the room. Mrs. Colon moved close enough to the door to hear them. The first voice she heard was Bethany's. And we have a pool with floaties, but we have to have someone to watch us, and her head swung to the doorway. Hey, Elijah. Elijah fought his sneer into submission, but not the thought. She's not going to be my sister. I don't even want the other two. Do me a favor, step in front of train. She's really nice, Elijah. You'll like her, Bethany remarked. Naomi quietly said hi. With a surly tone, he responded, Hello. Nice to see you. I hope you like it here. His mother's warnings moved into his thoughts. Knowing the consequences of being impolite, he joined the conversation about the pool. Can you swim? I don't know, Naomi meekly said. How can you not know if you can swim? I've never tried. What an idiot, he thought. Bethany and Delilah glared at Elijah. Be nice, Bethany said. I'm being nice. Bethany challenged. No, you're not. Delilah looked at Naomi. He's like this a lot, always angry. Mommy calls it sullen. With a tight jaw, Elijah glared directed at Delilah, then turned his head to Naomi and almost politely said, Anyway, maybe I can teach you how to swim. No way. Thank you. I'd like that. Elijah left the room. His mother was standing 10 feet away. How was that? You need to work on it. Okay. Can I go now? Yes. Mrs. Colon moved closer to the door and listened. Delilah said, He'll never teach you. Why not? Bethany asked. Because he's sullen, Bethany said with a giggle. Mrs. Colon smiled and went downstairs, followed shortly by Delilah. Again, Bethany talked to Naomi until they were summoned to dinner. After dinner ended, Rita, the housekeeper, cleared the table. Naomi waited for Bible study to start. Mrs. Colon asked, Dear, did you like Bible study last night? It was nice, we just didn't do it. Elijah blurted out. Maybe if she had studied the Bible more, she wouldn't have killed babies. Everyone at the table froze. Elijah looked directly at Naomi, smirked, and callously said, I guess you won't be meeting your mother in heaven. Mrs. Colon intensely glared at Elijah. Elijah, what's wrong with you? Immediately, Mr. Colon emphatically added, Don't you ever say anything like that again. Bethany frowned at Elijah and said, Elijah, that's unkind. Well, it's true. Mrs. Colon responded, It's not true. Her mother did not kill any unborn babies. Mr. Colon said, Or any babies. Elijah, you better not tell anyone, especially at school, that she did. That would be a lie. And if you have, you had better correct that and make sure everyone knows it's not true, or there will be hell to pay. Remember the 9th commandment. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. You'd better start thinking about what you're going to say before you say it. Mrs. Colon flashed an intense glare at Elijah. Now apologize to Naomi. What? Mr. Colon stood and fastened his eyes on Elijah. You heard your mother. Apologize. Now, petulantly Elijah responded, Okay. You had better change that attitude right now, or you know what will happen. Mr. Colon warned with a scowl. It was a threat that Mr. Colon rarely used, and it had never failed after Elijah's first time not heeding it. Yes, sir. He turned to Naomi. Prodded by fear, Elijah imitated an apology as genuinely as he could. I'm sorry. It was cruel of me to say that. It's just that. His father took a step toward him. Elijah swallowed his thoughts. Bethany sincerely said, Naomi and her mother are Christians, and even if they weren't, we must have pity for the non-Christians and try to bring them to the Lord. We are to show kindness and understanding to all people. That's what Jesus taught us. Bethany's mother smiled at Bethany. Your sister is right, Elijah. The Christian spirit is for everyone, and we must give everyone the opportunity to accept the Lord, Elijah's father added. Elijah countered, But you and Mom said that if you're not a Christian, then you are not welcome in this country. That is true, but we must leave the door open for them to join us if they become Christians. Then why do we make them live in that awful place and build a wall between us and them? You're talking about the dark zone, right? A lot of people call it the zone of the damned or the devil's zone. Usually just the zone. Bethany said, That's cruel. The people who live there are still God's people. He won't desert them. He doesn't hate them, and we shouldn't hate them. That's not the Lord's way. Bethany is right, her mother said. Mr. Colon remained silent as he walked toward his office. Elijah set his jaw, growled, and resurfaced his vow. Well, I'm never going to be friends with an atheist or anyone who is not a Christian. He stood and left the table. Delilah had remained silent, her usual response to family disagreements or even discussions. All that talk about religion was unimportant. To her, it seemed pointless and silly. So, she took advantage of the climate of hostility, stood and left the room, having not contributed a single thought. Bible study had vanished amid the consternation. Bethany and Naomi sat quietly at the table, looking at the disappointed Mrs. Colon. Well, I guess you two are my functioning family. Yes, ma'am, Bethany said. She looked at Naomi, then nodded her head toward Bethany. Naomi smiled and softly said, Yes, ma'am. You two are so sweet. I wish the whole family were like you. Thank you, Mommy. Okay, get the Bibles from the bookcase. Bethany's chair clattered and scraped as she pushed away from the table. Come on, Naomi. Follow me. Bethany took Naomi's hand. The girls rushed into the family library, snatched the Bibles from the shelf, rushed back to the table, jumped into their chairs, and dropped the books in front of them. As Mrs. Colon read, the girls followed along, catching as many words as they could. Then Mrs. Colon told them what the passage said and meant. She then asked them what they thought about it. They tried their best to understand, but a 5-year-old's concept of the world is severely limited. Mrs. Colon carried a broad smile throughout the session. She gave them each a kiss on the forehead and released them. With the kiss, Naomi thought about her mother and fought the tears, for if they started, she would not know if they would stop. If they didn't, it might hurt Mrs. Colon's feelings, and Naomi didn't want to do that because Mrs. Colon had been kind to her. Only a few tears fell. However, at bedtime, when she was under the covers, the lights were out, and she was alone. The tears filled her eyes and dampened her pillow. After the tears faded, she had to turn the pillow to find a dry area. Scene 5. Breakfast. A light knock on her bedroom door drew Naomi's attention, but it hadn't awakened her. Unfamiliar surroundings had fractured her sleep all night. The looming cross, which leaned over the bed, distressed her. She felt as if it were watching her, measuring her purity. Naomi, it's time to wake up and get ready for school. Your clothes are on a chair next to the dresser. Hurry, we don't want to be late, do we? Naomi raised and looked at the door. The request was stern, not soft like her mother's. Sweetheart, it's time to greet the day with a smile. Jump into your clothes. Your breakfast is on the table. Dad is waiting for you. I'm about to leave for the clinic. I love you. She missed her mother's light touch. Mrs. Colon's voice didn't have the tinkle of her mother's. Elijah had told her that her mother was a sinful person, a killer, a murderer of the innocent. It felt like it came from all of them. She shook the accusation away. The door opened. A hand reached in and the lights went on. Naomi sat on the edge of the bed for a minute, putting her new world in order. She rose, went to the chair on which her clothes lay in the order they would be donned. Underwear, a slip, something she had never seen before, a loose white blouse, and a blue plaid skirt that went midway down to her calf. Her shoes were underneath the chair. A pair of above-ankle white socks lay on top of the black lace shoes. She had been told it was the school uniform. Bethany and Delilah would be wearing the same thing. All the girls did. Guarded by her discomfort, Naomi carefully walked into the dining room. The Colon family was seated at the table. A middle-aged woman was putting breakfast on the table. Naomi startled and stopped. Mrs. Colon noticed the sudden stop. Oh, you remember Rita, right? You'll have to get used to her. She does the cooking and cleaning for us. Bethany patted the chair next to her and chirped, You can always sit next to me if you want, sister. Isolated in the mansion, except for the church where play was not permitted, Bethany always wanted someone to play with. With Felicia vanishing into the past, now she had one. It was Naomi's first breakfast with the whole family. With her eyes revealing uncertainty, she sat next to Bethany. Mr. Colon said, Naomi, you'll have to get used to being our daughter. And my sister, Bethany added. Delilah had an indifferent expression. Mrs. Colon glared at Delilah and then Elijah. Delilah. Elijah. And mine too, Delilah unenthusiastically said. Yes, ma'am. And me too, Elijah sullenly said. I hope you said your prayers last night before you went to bed, Mrs. Colon said. I am sorry. I forgot. It's understandable, but let's not forget again. It's critical to acknowledge consistently the Lord's presence in your life. He is the light of your life. Yes, ma'am, I'll try. Naomi, you must do more than try. You must do it, Mr. Colon said. Yes, sir. Bethany said, I'll help you remember. Thank you, Mr. Colon said. You have a new brother, 2 new sisters, mother and father. If you want, you may call us mother and father or mom and dad from now on. Okay? Yes, sir. Yes, what? Yes, father. Good. Didn't that feel good? Be happy. You have wholesome Christian parents now. Yes, as father. Mrs. Colon looked at Elijah. Elijah? Yes, ma'am. Prayer. Right. Naomi, we take turns leading prayers. It's Elijah's turn today. Yours will be coming. We're not going to leave you out. But I always prayed silently. I don't know if I can. Bethany smiled broadly. Don't worry. I'll help you make up a prayer. Elijah's prayer was simple, but he managed to have the Lord bless the family, their good fortune, the leaders of their Christian nation, and even the leaders of the evangelical Christian party. With breakfast done, Mrs. Colon said, the car will be here in just a few minutes, so get ready. Bethany escorted Naomi out the front door, down the steps, and to the curb of the horseshoe-shaped driveway, which led up to the front of the house. Delilah trailed behind. Elijah trailed even further behind. He stared angrily at the 2 sisters and the designated sister, wondering how he would fare with 3 sisters. 1 was hard enough. 2 stretched his patience to the end. 3 seemed impossible. Bethany's excitement could barely be contained. Talking rapidly, she said, we have a driver that takes us to school every day and picks us up except when mom or dad wants to. He will also take us places if we get permission. Sometimes we can't go to some places because they may be too dangerous. I've hardly ever been told I can't go somewhere, but I always try to ask to go someplace that they'll say yes to. Do you have places you like to go? Maybe we can go there. I don't know, but we might. Naomi, stunned by Bethany's quick-fire speech, just looked at Bethany. Bethany gave her a broad, happy smile. When Naomi first saw the Colons' house, she knew they were wealthy, but with a maid and a driver, she realized they were more than wealthy. The worry she had felt when she heard the sirens of the Christian law enforcement had become a lesson in history. It would be relegated to the past, and in a few years would be forgotten. She would be safe now. Scene 6. New school. After school, Mrs. Colon greeted Naomi, Bethany, and Delilah at the door. Delilah rushed past her, carrying her usual slight sneer, which had begun with the birth of Bethany and had increased with the arrival of Naomi. Bethany stopped for a hug and a kiss. Naomi waited behind Bethany. Mrs. Colon looked down at Naomi. Naomi, you can hug me if you want. That's right, and you can kiss her on the cheek, or let her kiss you on the cheek, or both kiss each other. Naomi tentatively hugged Mrs. Colon, then moved away. Disappointed, Bethany said she didn't get a kiss. Maybe next time or sometime later. As she closed the door, Mrs. Colon asked Naomi, so, how was your first day at school? Okay, she said shyly. Do you have any questions? Yes. Okay, what do you want to know? Why aren't there any boys? The boys go to a separate school. Why? She asked with a perplexed look. Did your school allow boys and girls to be together? Yes, but it was just preschool, not real school. But I had a friend who was a boy, and he was in school with me. But there was always an adult with you or watching you, right? Just the teachers, and they were all women. Well, if you're ever with a boy, there should always be an adult around. Don't ever be alone with a boy. Why? The church has determined it is best to keep boys and girls in separate schools in preschool, elementary, and middle school. In high school, they're on the same campus. Campus. They're the buildings and fields where we learn and play, Bethany said. Mrs. Colon expanded. But in high school, the boys and girls are in separate classes. They do both go to the sporting events, rallies, and assemblies. I don't know what those are. Bethany will explain that to you. Bethany pulled on Naomi's hand. Let's go to your room. I have stuff to fix it up for you. I can make it like my room, if you want. Up the stairs they rushed, smiling with every step.